When most people think of stroke, they imagine it happening suddenly, an unpredictable bolt of lightning from the blue. But the truth is far more unsettling and empowering at the same time. Stroke rarely comes out of nowhere. It builds silently over years, shaped by the smallest daily habits. And one of the most overlooked times of the day that can either raise or lower your risk is the morning. Today I want to show you how one common morning habit, something so ordinary you probably don't even think about it, can quietly skyrocket your stroke risk. Your brain is an extraordinary organ, but it's also fragile. It makes up just 2% of your body weight, yet it uses 20% of your oxygen supply. That oxygen arrives through a dense network of blood vessels that must remain open, flexible, and healthy. A stroke happens when this system breaks, when blood flow is suddenly cut off by a clot, or when a vessel bursts from too much pressure. Every second without blood flow means brain cells are dying, and once they're gone, they don't come back. This is why prevention is so critical, and prevention always comes back to the little choices we make every day. Now here's where the morning habit comes in. After a long night of sleep, your body wakes up dehydrated. You've gone 6, 7, maybe 8 hours without water. The problem? Dehydration thickens your blood, making it flow more sluggishly. Think about syrup trying to move through a straw instead of water. That thickened blood is more likely to form clots. And where do those clots travel? To the heart, to the lungs, and very often, to the brain. This is one of the reasons strokes are most common in the morning. Yet what do many people do first thing after waking up? They reach straight for coffee. Caffeine itself isn't the enemy. In fact, moderate coffee can have health benefits, but drinking it before rehydrating is where the danger lies. Coffee is a diuretic, which means it pushes your body to lose even more water. So instead of rehydrating your system, you're doubling down on dehydration. That combination, thick blood, stiff vessels, and morning surges in blood pressure, creates a perfect storm for stroke. But that's not the only morning trap. Many people also jump out of bed too quickly. When you rise suddenly, blood pressure can spike, straining vessels that may already be vulnerable. A weak vessel wall can rupture under that surge. In fact, some of the most dangerous strokes happen when blood pressure fluctuates sharply in the early hours of the day. Add dehydration to the mix, and you've stacked the deck against your brain. Here's another habit that fuels risk: starting the day with sugary, processed foods. A pastry, a sweet cereal, or even juice loaded with added sugar can send your blood sugar soaring. That spike damages the lining of your arteries, stiffens blood vessels, and worsens inflammation, all of which increase stroke risk over time. It's not just about weight gain, it's about the health of the blood vessels feeding your brain. And finally, there's morning stress. Cortisol, the body's stress hormone, naturally peaks in the morning. It's meant to help us wake up and get moving. But when life piles on extra stress, cortisol rises too high. That surge squeezes blood vessels, raises pressure, and increases the likelihood of both clots and bleeds. When the first hour of your day is a rush of stress, your brain feels it. So what can you do to protect yourself? Start with the simplest shift. Drink a glass of water before anything else. That single step thins your blood, restores balance, and lowers the chance of clotting. Next, give your body a gentle wake-up. Sit for a moment. Stretch, breathe before standing up. Choose a breakfast with protein and healthy fats, like eggs, yogurt, nuts, or seeds, rather than something sugar-heavy. And build a calm moment into your morning, even if it's just a few minutes of quiet before the day begins. These aren't big, sweeping changes. They're small adjustments that add up to a lifetime of protection. Stroke risk doesn't skyrocket because of age alone. It skyrockets because of habits. And the good news is, habits can be changed. Your brain is worth protecting. It holds your memories, your personality, your ability to love and connect. Don't let something preventable steal that from you. The first hour of your morning can be your brain's greatest risk, or its greatest shield. Now let's go deeper, because I don't want you to think of stroke as just numbers or statistics. Behind every statistic is a real person whose life changed in an instant. Picture this. Someone wakes up, pours their coffee, rushes out the door, and suddenly, without warning, their words come out slurred, or their arm won't move, or their vision fades on one side. In that moment, Life as they know it is divided into two parts, before the stroke and after. And here is what shocks me as a physician. So many of these events could have been prevented by changing the smallest details of how the morning begins. Why the morning? Because your body is already under hidden stress the minute you open your eyes. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is naturally high. Blood pressure is naturally higher. Your blood is naturally thicker because of dehydration. And your arteries, especially as you age, may already be stiffer than they once were. This cocktail of factors makes the first 2 hours after waking one of the riskiest times of the entire day for a stroke. Now let's zoom in on dehydration, because it's more powerful than most people realize. Your brain is 75% water. That water isn't just sitting there. It's essential for electrical signals between brain cells, for removing toxins that build up during sleep, and for keeping blood flowing smoothly. When water levels drop, your blood thickens. Imagine traffic on a highway. Normally, cars move freely, but now imagine half the lanes are closed, everything slows, clogs, and accidents happen. That's your blood when you're dehydrated. A clot that might have washed away easily in hydrated blood suddenly has the chance to get stuck. Here's a striking fact. Research shows that even mild dehydration can increase the risk of clot-related strokes by up to 34%, and the risk climbs higher in the morning, because that when most people are at their driest. Now add caffeine on top of this. Again, coffee isn't inherently bad. In fact, black coffee in moderation may reduce risks of certain diseases. But timing is everything. When coffee is the first liquid in your system, it acts as a mild diuretic, pushing out even more water through your kidneys before your body has a chance to rehydrate. Instead of easing morning risk, it amplifies it. But coffee isn't the only trap. The way you physically get out of bed matters. Have you ever stood up too fast in the morning and felt dizzy? That's called orthostatic hypertension, a sudden drop in blood pressure when your body hasn't T-adjusted yet. For some, the pressure then rebounds upward, spiking dangerously. A stiff artery can't cushion that surge, and if a weak vessel wall gives way, a hemorrhagic stroke, bleeding in the brain, can result. And here's another subtle trap: your breakfast choices. Let's be honest, breakfast has become the most sugary meal of the day for many people. Sweetened cereals, pastries, even flavored yogurts and juices are loaded with hidden sugars. What happens when you pour sugar into your bloodstream first thing in the morning? Your arteries are immediately stressed. Blood sugar spikes, insulin surges, and inflammation rises. That inflammation damages the lining of your arteries, tiny microscopic injuries that heal with scar tissue and plaque. Over years, those plaques narrow your vessels, setting the stage for stroke. The brain doctor in me cannot ignore this truth. The first hour of your day can either set you on a path of health or light a slow fuse for disaster. And every day you repeat the habit, that fuse burns shorter. Now let me share a story from my practice. I once met a patient who had his first stroke at 67. He was active, lean, never smoked, and thought he was doing everything right. But when I asked him about his mornings, a pattern emerged. He skipped water entirely, went straight for a giant mug of coffee, ate a sweet muffin, and then rushed into a stressful commute. That was his routine for decades. On the surface, it seemed harmless. But beneath the surface, his brain and blood vessels were under attack every single morning. That attack eventually broke through. Now, the reason I tell you this is not to frighten you, but to show you that even people who look healthy can be at risk if they overlook these silent triggers. The power is in knowledge, and with knowledge, you can act. So let's talk about action. What can you do to shield your brain? Step 1 is hydration. Place a glass of water by your bedside tonight. Make it the very first thing you drink when you wake up. This one step reduces blood thickness, improves circulation, and gives your brain the fluid it needs to function. Step 2 is pacing. When you wake up, don't leap out of bed. Take a minute. Sit up slowly. Stretch. Breathe. Let your body catch up to your brain. This prevents those sudden blood pressure spikes that put vessel walls at risk. Step 3 is fueling wisely. Instead of a sugary breakfast, choose foods that stabilize your blood sugar and support your vessels. Eggs, nuts, oatmeal with seeds, or even avocado toast with whole grain bread. All of these provide steady energy without spiking inflammation. And finally, step 4 is stress control. Build in a moment of calm before you dive into your day. It could be a short walk, a few deep breaths, or even 2 minutes of silence. Lowering that morning cortisol surge helps keep your blood pressure stable and your vessels relaxed. These are not massive life overhauls. They are small shifts in the first 60 minutes of your day. But they could mean the difference between a morning where your brain thrives and one where it suffers irreparable damage. Let's pause and think about this for a moment. Why does the brain seem so vulnerable in the morning? It's not just coincidence. The brain is running a complex recovery process while you sleep. Every night your body lowers blood pressure, clears waste products through the lymphatic system, and balances neurotransmitters. But when you open your eyes, the system has to switch gears instantly. Blood pressure rises, hormones surge, the heart beats harder. It's like revving an engine that has just been sitting idle in the cold all night. If the engine isn't tuned or the pipes are clogged, that sudden strain can cause a breakdown. This is why many strokes, heart attacks, and even sudden cardiac deaths occur in the early morning hours. It's not that the body is betraying you. It's that the body is asking for support, and the way you respond can either protect or endanger it. Now let me paint a picture. Imagine two people waking up. One rolls out of bed, grabs their phone, downs a coffee without water, rushes into the shower, hand bolts out the door on an empty stomach or with a sugary pastry in hand. Their blood is thick, their pressure is rising, their cortisol is high, and their arteries are inflamed. That morning is a ticking time bomb. The other person wakes up, drinks a tall glass of water, sits on the edge of the bed to stretch, breathes deeply for a minute, and then eats a breakfast of oats with chia seeds or an egg with some vegetables. Their blood flows smoothly, their pressure rises gently, and their brain receives steady energy instead of a sugar storm. That morning becomes a shield instead of a weapon. Two very different outcomes, shaped not by age or fate, but by choices. Let's dive deeper into the science because the details matter. A study published in Stroke, a leading medical journal, found that the risk of ischemic stroke, the type caused by a blood clot, is significantly higher between 6 a.m. and 12 p.m. compared to other times of day. Researchers believe this is because blood pressure peaks in the morning. Platelets in the blood become stickier, and dehydration is most pronounced. In other words, your brain is walking a tightrope every single morning, and the smallest push in the wrong direction can make it fall. And here is something even more eye-opening. Doctors in emergency rooms worldwide can almost predict their busiest time. The phones start ringing, ambulances start arriving, and patients come in with sudden weakness, slurred speech, or vision loss. The pattern repeats itself day after day. Mornings are when the brain is most at risk. Now, let's go back to coffee because I know some of you are thinking, "But doctor, I love my morning coffee. Do I have to give it up?" The answer is no. Coffee in moderation can actually be protective. It contains antioxidants and may lower the risk of certain conditions. The key is order. Drink water first. Give your body the hydration it desperately needs. Then enjoy your coffee. Think of water as the foundation and coffee as the accessory. Without the foundation, the accessory can harm instead of help. And sugar, that's the sneaky culprit most people overlook. When you start the day with a bagel and cream cheese, or a sweetened yogurt parfait, or orange juice from a carton, you're asking your blood sugar to skyrocket. That spike triggers inflammation in your blood vessels, and over time, those tiny injuries build into plaques. A plaque is like a scab inside your artery. It narrows the space for blood to flow, and it can break open, triggering a clot. And when that clot travels upward, the brain is its first stop. This is why I often tell my patients, your breakfast is either a medicine or a poison. There is no neutral ground. Let's also talk about the role of stress. Stress is invisible, but it leaves fingerprints all over your vascular system. Cortisol, the stress hormone, peaks naturally in the morning to wake you up. But if you add the stress of rushing, worrying, multitasking, or starting your day in chaos, cortisol doesn't just peak, it surges. That surge constricts your blood vessels, raises your blood pressure even higher, and primes your platelets to clot. The result? A dangerous storm brewing inside your brain's delicate arteries. Now let me share another real story. A woman in her 70s came to me after experiencing a minor stroke, what we call a TIA, or transient ischemic attack. It's often a warning shot before a major stroke. When we examined her lifestyle, her evenings were calm, but her mornings were frantic. She cared for her husband, answered emails the moment she woke up, and skipped breakfast altogether, surviving on coffee alone. She didn't feel stressed. She thought this was just normal life, but her body told a different story. After adjusting her morning routine, hydrating, eating a real breakfast, and taking 10 minutes for mindfulness, she never had another event. That's the power of small shifts. So, what do we take from this? That mornings are not neutral. They are either your brain's greatest risk or your brain's greatest protection. The choice depends on you. And here's a simple checklist I give to my patients, one that you can start using tomorrow morning. Number 1, water before anything else. Number 2, rise slowly and gently, not abruptly. Number 3, choose a breakfast that fuels instead of inflames. Number 4, protect your mind with a few minutes of calm before the rush of the day. 4 simple steps, yet they can dramatically lower the risk of the number 1 cause of disability in the world, stroke. There's something I haven't told you yet, and it might surprise you. Some of the very habits people believe are healthy in the morning can actually do the opposite when it comes to protecting the brain. They can quietly raise your stroke risk. Take skipping breakfast. For years, some health trends have promoted intermittent fasting. And while fasting can have benefits when done carefully, skipping breakfast entirely has been linked in several studies to higher risks of cardiovascular disease and stroke. Why? Because skipping that first meal can cause cortisol to spike even higher, raising blood pressure and stressing your arteries. Your body goes into a fight or flight state instead of a fuel and repair state. For someone with vulnerable arteries, that extra stress can be dangerous. Here's another hidden trap: adding too much salt first thing in the morning. Maybe it's in your breakfast sausage, your buttered toast, or even in that healthy instant oatmeal packet that's loaded with sodium. Morning is already a time when blood pressure rises naturally. Add a flood of sodium, and you can push your pressure higher than your vessels can handle. Over time, that strain weakens vessel walls and accelerates damage. And let's not forget about exercise. Yes, movement is critical for brain health, but the timing and intensity matter. Jumping straight into high-intensity exercise in a dehydrated, stiff morning state can actually increase stroke risk in some people. Why? Because blood pressure and heart rate shoot up rapidly before the vessels have had a chance to adapt. It's like taking a dry sponge and trying to twist it forcefully. It cracks. The safer approach is gentle stretching, walking, or yoga in the morning, followed by hydration before building into more intense activity later in the day. Now let me ask you this. How often have you reached for your phone the instant you woke up? It seems harmless, but that flood of notifications, news alerts, or emails can instantly spike stress. Remember, cortisol is already at its peak. Add mental stress on top, and blood vessels constrict. Think of it as squeezing a garden hose while the water is turned on full blast. Pressure builds and weak spots are pushed closer to breaking. And there's one more subtle mistake I see over and over again. People wake up, feel rushed, and hold in their urine instead of going to the bathroom. It might seem trivial, but this actually matters. Their full bladder can raise blood pressure temporarily, and the act of straining when finally urinating can spike it even higher. If you already have weakened arteries, that pressure surge can be dangerous. It's one of those small things that most people never consider, but it matters to your brain. The truth is, your brain is whispering to you every morning, "Help me." And how you respond makes the difference between long-term health and sudden catastrophe. I want you to picture this clearly. Your brain cells are waiting for oxygen-rich blood every single second. When you hydrate in the morning, you're not just drinking water. You're delivering life to those brain cells. When you rise slowly, you're giving your vessels a chance to adapt. When you choose a breakfast of steady fuel, you're creating stability instead of chaos inside your arteries. When you give yourself a calm start, you're protecting your vessels from stress that would otherwise squeeze the life out of them. These habits may look small from the outside, but inside your body, they are monumental. They are the difference between blood flowing freely or getting trapped, between a vessel staying strong or bursting, between a brain thriving or shutting down, And here's the most powerful part. It's never too late to start. Your arteries can respond to positive changes within days. Your blood can thin with just one glass of water. Your cortisol can stabilize with just minutes of calm. And your brain can be nourished with a single good breakfast choice. Stroke risk skyrockets with age only if you let damaging habits continue unchecked. But change the habits and you change the risk. Now, I want to take you inside the brain itself. Imagine zooming in to see a delicate blood vessel snaking its way through grey matter. It's carrying life to the neurons that help you speak, move, remember, and love. That vessel is depending on you. If it's stiff, inflamed, and dehydrated, it's one wrong morning away from disaster. But if it's flexible, hydrated, and protected, it can carry you through decades of vibrant life. Every morning is a fork in the road. One path leads toward risk, the other toward resilience. Which path will you choose tomorrow when you open your eyes? Let me share another story with you, one that stayed with me for years. I once treated a man in his late 60s. He had always considered himself strong and independent. He loved gardening, he walked daily, and he never missed his morning newspaper. But one morning everything changed. He woke up, poured himself a cup of black coffee, and sat down to read the news. Minutes later, his wife noticed something was wrong. His words were garbled. One side of his face drooped. He tried to stand, but his leg wouldn't move. He had suffered a stroke. When I spoke with him later, after he'd partially recovered, he said something I'll never forget. He told me, "Doctor, I thought I was doing everything right. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink much, but I never once thought about my mornings." That single sentence hit me, because it reflects what so many people believe, that health is about avoiding obvious risks like smoking or drinking, while overlooking the smaller daily habits that can silently add up. The truth is, stroke doesn't usually come from one dramatic trigger. It comes from years of tiny injuries, little stresses on the blood vessels, repeated again and again until one morning the system breaks. And mornings are where those stresses concentrate most powerfully. Science confirms this. A large study from Japan followed thousands of adults and found that strokes and heart attacks clustered most heavily in the early morning hours. The researchers identified dehydration, blood pressure surges, and cortisol peaks as the culprits. And here is the kicker. They also found that those who consistently drank water in the morning lowered their risk significantly compared to those who didn't tout just water. Something so simple, yet so powerful. Another study from Europe looked at diet. It showed that those who ate balanced breakfasts with protein, fiber, and healthy fats had lower rates of stroke compared to those who skipped breakfast or relied on high-sugar foods. The message is clear. The brain thrives on stability, not extremes. Now let me pull back and help you visualize what's really happening inside your brain in those first moments of the day. Imagine your blood vessels as highways. Overnight, with dehydration, the traffic gets thicker. When you suddenly stand up or gulp down coffee without water, it's like starting rush-hour traffic without clearing the roads. Cars clog, fender benders happen, and sometimes there's a pile-up. That pile-up is your stroke. But add water, move gently, fuel your system wisely, and those highways open up. Cars move smoothly, and nothing gets blocked. That's the difference your choices make. And let's not ignore another factor: age. As you get older, blood vessels naturally stiffen. It's not your fault. It's part of biology. Collagen in the vessel walls breaks down, and the elastic stretch they once had decreases. Think of a new rubber band versus an old one that cracks when you pull it. Morning surges in pressure hit those stiff vessels the hardest. That's why after 65 the risk skyrockets, unless you take active steps to protect those vessels. Now I want you to imagine your future self. 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Do you see yourself climbing stairs with ease, laughing with family, enjoying independence? Or do you see yourself struggling to speak, sitting in a wheelchair, needing help for the smallest tasks because a stroke stole your strength? That future is not written in stone. It is shaped in large part by the choices you make every morning starting now. Here's something else to think about. Many people underestimate the emotional toll of stroke. It's not just physical paralysis or speech problems. It's the loss of confidence, the frustration of being trapped in a body that doesn't respond, the sadness of missing out on life's simplest joys, and yet this can often be prevented, not by miracle drugs, not by expensive treatments, but by ordinary, everyday actions. That's what makes this so urgent and so hopeful. So what do you do tomorrow morning? You drink water before coffee, you rise slowly instead of jumping up, you choose breakfast that fuels instead of inflames, you give yourself a calm, unhurried start instead of flooding your brain with stress. Each of these steps is like placing a shield around your brain, a shield against clotting, a shield against pressure surges, a shield against the tragedy of preventable stroke. And I promise you, your brain will thank you. With clearer thinking, with sharper memory, with steadier balance, with more vibrant life. So here is the truth. Stroke is not something that waits in the shadows to strike without warning. It leaves us clues. It whispers through high morning blood pressure, through skipped hydration, through the way we treat our bodies when we first wake up. And while we cannot turn back the clock on our age, we can absolutely change the choices that shape our future. If you are over 65, your mornings matter more than ever before. They are the starting line for your brain each day. Begin with water. Rise with care. Nourish yourself with food that supports circulation and steadies your vessels. Protect yourself from the very habits that silently multiply your risk. Because when you do, you are not just avoiding a stroke. You are claiming your independence. You are safeguarding your memory. You are preserving your ability to laugh, to hug, to speak, to walk, to live with dignity and strength. One day, when you look back, you will see that it was not some dramatic medical treatment that saved you. It was the small, ordinary steps you chose in the quiet of the morning. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes, remember this. Your brain is counting on you. Give it water, give it care, give it protection. And in return, it will give you years of life worth living. Stay safe, stay strong, and take charge of your mornings, because your best days can still be ahead of you.